Okay, we're going to talk about the evolution and devolution of natural order from a heretical sect into nature, into order, and back into a heretical sect. Now, the heretical sect in the diagram is all these jagged bits here. There's a piece of it here. There's another piece of it here. Other heretical sects. And you'll see there's a piece that's growing here. So it's evolving through this into this. Okay, so let's just take it from the beginning. Okay, so we have here the heretical sect, which is the remnants of the old natural order or dispensation. Okay, the dispensation is coming here. This is the new dispensation, which is actually writings, created teachings for humanity, and this is where the new order emerges, or it emerges into the new and out of the natural order. Okay. Now you'll see it's coming out of the end time. There's an end time here where the heretical sect pushes itself into and takes over pieces of the natural order. And you'll see there's war at this time, war, W-A-R here, and the wars are created by the Antichrist, which is the opposite of natural order. The Antichrist is completely organized. Natural order is self-organizing, and the organizers, the hierarchical organizers, these are the one who creates the wars, if you like, against the natural order, and creates death and destruction in the world. And out of this heretical sect is coming two new elements, if you like, Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, because what we're talking about here is what happened in 2,000 years ago. Yet it's a model for every time this thing happens, because if you study all religions, you'll find that they all contain the teaching that God the Father incarnates directly in the people to actually bring in the new dispensation. Okay. I'll take 5. Okay, now in this particular example, the Jewish religion was the heretical sect of the time, and the Jewish religion had been a heretical sect ever since the time of Jacob. You can see if you read the Bible story of Jacob, how Jacob turned to war, turned to evil, and he was therefore renamed Israel, and fought against God, and was maimed by God, and given so he couldn't walk. And it's always been that anybody who had a physical deformity was never allowed to be the leader of a people, and this was obviously shown in Jacob. Okay, and always primitive peoples, natural peoples, regarded the birth of twins to be a very, very bad sign, and in fact they would normally put twins to death to prevent the events that would come out of the twins from happening. And by allowing the twins to live, so the events foreshadowed by the omen, if you like, would come to pass. Okay, it's a small issue we pass on from that, because what we're talking about is the evolution from one form, from the corrupt form, the heretical sect, now to the natural order again, okay, which is the natural order of bards, druids and poets. Okay, in whatever order you want to say it in. Um, there's no hierarchical order we can impose on this thing. It has to come from nature, him, herself. Okay. Right. So, to get back to the diagram. Okay, now you'll see that Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene came out of the heretical sect because they tried to find their place within the heretical sect. They were still discovering whether the heretical sect was completely heretical and finished or not, or whether it had to start all over again. Because if Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene had been recognized by the Jews of the time as being correct in what they were saying, because they were saying that all these laws about the Sabbath day are all load of nonsense and that Moses was an idiot. You know, they were saying all this stuff. And so the Jews decided no, they were going to stick with their hierarchy, and they could see that this guy was going to be the high priest if they didn't watch out, and so they had to get rid of this guy if they didn't want to lose their jobs. Okay, and so they were the Jewish religion was the government of the day, and our government of our day is also a religion. You know, they're also an heretical sect. We just don't see them as a religion, but they are a religion because they have certain views, and if we don't like their worldview, they don't like us. And so it's that simple, really. And if their worldview is false, then what has to happen is Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene have to come out of the heretical sect into natural order, because they are natural order. They've been born as part of natural order. And they need then to encourage the world back into natural order, okay, and gather the lost sheep of Israel, okay, and these are coming out of all of the other religions, okay, because we have all the religions that ever were going back into time. We've got the Hindus, we've got the Persians, the Zoroastrians, we've got the Jews, we've got the Christians, we've got the Muslims, we've got the Protestant Christians, we've got the atheists, we've got the scientific materialists, we've got all these different religions. These are all heretical sects, and they all need to come back to the truth, which is the new dispensation is the truth, okay? Right. You couldn't see what I was saying there. There you go, the new dispensation is the truth. They're coming out of the heretical sects, the various religions and non-religions, and organized world. The organized world with laws, okay? Now, there are laws in natural order, and to try to create false laws, artificial laws, to maintain the law is a big mistake, because there's nothing but justice in natural order. And if we allow the natural order to rule, nature to rule, there'll be nothing but justice in the world. And we'll see that in the primitive tribes, as men used to live, we call them primitive, but it's only because they're in the natural order. We don't see the beauty of their lifestyles. We always had the Bard and the Druid. They lived in the tribe, and normally on the edge of the tribe, and they were the leaders, they were the spiritual leaders of the tribe, and they had kings which handled the war aspects. If there was an evil tribe that was causing trouble, then there had to be some kind of, if there was contact with it, there had to be some kind of defense. But generally, if a tribe is behaving itself, it should actually, its destiny should be to be preserved. And that certainly was the destiny of the Swiss people in World War II. They never got involved. And they must have had very good karma to have not got involved at that time. Okay, I take 5. Okay, so we come to the subject of war. How is this heretical sect destroyed if there's just peace? You know, Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, they bring peace into the world. Yet there's war. Who's warring who? And the war is between the most evil heretical sect and the lesser evil heretical sect. Okay? And so at the time, 2,000 years ago, we had the most evil heretical sect were the Jews, and the lesser evil were the Romans. Okay? Now, in the Jewish Talmud, they talk about the descendants of Israel and the descendants of Esau. Esau was the other twin brother, and he migrated to Europe. And so they say the descendants of Esau were the Romans. Okay, the Greeks, the Romans came out of the Greeks and became the Germans, actually. The Germans were living in natural order. They lived in the trees, they worshipped nature, they worshipped the natural order and didn't damage anything. They lived freely in the forests of Germany. Okay. At the time that the Roman Empire destroyed the Jewish Empire. Okay, so one heretical sect destroys another heretical sect. And out of this end-time fight, this war, where whole empires are destroyed, the new teaching, the new dispensation comes through all of the people that God incarnates into to bring through the new dispensation. Okay? Let's go back to the diagram. Okay, now you'll see that the pathway for the lady is different to the gentleman. Okay, Jesus Christ had to go out on pilgrimage out into the world, and to study all of the books of the founders of all of the great religions, the Zoroastrians. It's mainly the Zoroastrians that Jesus is coming out of. You know, but he studied everything that was available at the time, and wandered the world for some years whilst he developed the wisdom that God put into him. It wasn't him that he just was obeying the will of God. And so Jesus Christ gave us the model for how to enter the natural order, and that was, thy will be done, thy kingdom come, not my will, okay? And so he gave up the will. To give up the will is to enter the natural order and let nature decide what we do with our life. And nature is the one that created Jesus Christ, created Mary Magdalene. Now Mary Magdalene was brought up by the Essene Brotherhood. They were the best of the remaining least heretical groups. Okay, the Essene Brotherhood was the best it had at the time. There were certain heretical elements to it, yet they were the best. And so Mary Magdalene was brought up together with that group. Okay, so she ends up inside the best of the remaining least heretical groups. They look after her while Jesus goes out on the road and develops a wisdom necessary to become the world teacher. And when that wisdom is developed sufficiently in him, he's brought together with Mary Magdalene, and they're made into a divine couple, which is the seed of the divine group. And the group is this new natural order of poets, bards, and druids that is emerging in the world. And it has no real hierarchical form, although that was put on it later as it developed into the Christian religion by the apostles who were part of the original divine group. Okay, and so the world teacher has to create works which are works of writings and teachings and sayings, the sayings of Jesus. And the original sayings of Jesus, I'm going to just take 5 now. Okay, I'll take 5. Right, where are we up to? The original teachings of Jesus. Until quite recently in the 1940s, we only had what other people said that Jesus said. The story of Jesus was coming from the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. And we didn't have the original teachings of Jesus. And there was a legendary book, the original teachings of Jesus, which was suppressed by the Roman Catholic Church, by the Jesuit order, so that it had gone from the world, okay? And it wasn't there, it was just legendary, the legendary sayings of Jesus Christ. And in the 1940s, I think it was about 1945, they discovered I think it was a Nag Hammadi library. Well, there's 2 discoveries. There's a Nag Hammadi library and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, I think it was a Nag Hammadi library that contained the book with the original sayings of Jesus, and this was called the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas, and so it reappeared in 1945. An important moment, which is in the end time of the British Empire and the Germans. Okay. What came next? What came next after the Romans came next? And so these teachings give more insight into actually what Jesus said, okay? And they're important to study, those teachings. They're the most important thing we have from the time of Jesus, the Gospel of Thomas. There are also other interesting works that have been kind of suppressed. There's the Shepherd of Hermas, is also a very important writing to understand what the actual church is in the natural order. The Shepherd of Hermas, that's an important work. And the 4 Gospels are important to read, especially the Gospel of John, I would say. They're important to read because they have certain mystical information in them, like keys. Because as you read all of these works of the ancient masters, there's certain keys in those works which are necessary to turn you on to the next step on your journey. And in the 1960s they said, turn on, tune in, drop out. That's basically Jesus' message too. Okay. We'll go back to the diagram. Okay, we can see this natural order, poets, bards and druids, coming out into the world of natural order, the world of light and life. And it's been there for all time. Some called it, in the olden days, the Order of Melchizedek. The Order of Melchizedek has been fallen into a kind of a heretical sect, and so it has a new name now, which describes what it is, rather than the name of a founder of some kind. Yet the founder of the Order of Melchizedek was the boy child Melchizedek, and he was a student of Enoch, and he accompanied Noah on the ark and established the new natural order at the end time of the Great Flood. Great Flood. Okay. Now you'll see that this is a model for all evolution. Okay, because first of all the error becomes worse and worse. A lie grows in the world, and then the truth sets free the truth aspects. The Heretical Sect is destroyed in the end time, and the new natural order evolves into reality, into the world of light, and then eventually it's organized into a religion, the Christian religion. It becomes an heretical sect as lies evolve. You know what happened was, I'll take 5. Now, they said all sorts of lies about Jesus, that he could walk on water, that he could magically transform water into wine, and all sorts of other nonsense. And so it just became an heretical sect, like every other one in the end. And the desert fathers left for the desert. They said, we're out of here, I'm out of here, this organised religion is not for me. And the guy that organised the religion was a guy called Paul. And he was a Jew too, who's coming out of Judaism. And he persecuted Jesus originally. And so these lies got back into what became a religion. And they organised it, they organised it into priests and high priests and all the rest of it. Okay, it cannot be that way. It's not that way. And they threw out all of the wise people, and they just had all the idiots left, gathering around the bones of Jesus Christ. My God. Yeah. It's a long time ago, and a lot happened since then. But the pattern is the same. The pattern is the same of falling. The heretical sect then produces a saviour, and a new, as a couple, becomes a world teacher, brings a new dispensation. It starts all over again. The Seventh-day Adventists, the Baptists, John Wesley, Krishnamurti, Annas Bailey, and the Theosophical movement, and then Helena Blavatsky, and the greatest of all of them, C.W. Ledbetter. C.W. Ledbetter. And you better read some of his books too, because there's keys inside there also. He had his job to do, you know, C.W. Ledbetter. And he was also a world teacher, and he was heavily chastised for being it too, thrown out, cast out of the Theosophical Society. Okay. Yet he identified Krishnamurti as the world teacher, and Krishnamurti was the world teacher and did bring a new dispensation and cancelled his order, the order of the star, with all its money and its power and hierarchy and wealth. He just disbanded it. That's the end of it. Off you go. You didn't do what I said. You have to do the works. You can't just like sit around and listen to me talk. Okay? They didn't do the will of God. Okay? And so here we sit again, and there were many end times in his time. The Koreans, the Vietnamese, my God, as the American Empire flexed its muscles on the international stage. And now we have the end time of the Americans and the Jews, the Israelis, and the end time of the Iranians, who is coming out as the Zoroastrians, which is where Jesus came from. They've been hanging around forever for their end time. And the European Union, the globalist movement, this religion also is now in its end time. Okay? And you people are the new Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene's that form the natural order of poets, bards and druids. And so now you know who you are. Now you know who you were. And now you know what your job is. And your job is simply to obey the will of nature and not have a will of your own. Become one with nature and allow nature to self-organize the world. Okay? And all organizations are false. As soon as man gives a name to something, no, XYZ company, Microsoft, yeah, Apple, no. They're just mechanisms to enslave human beings. They always were, they always will be. And they create all the nature-destroying technology. If there was no organizations, there would be no destruction of nature, because man would be free to organize nature, and wherever man saw a bad bit of nature that nobody was using, he'd just move in, build his house and fix it up. That's the job, basically, of the human being. Human beings have their place in nature. They are the guardians of nature. They are the protectors of nature, of the animals. If an animal gets stuck, you know, in a bog or something, can't get out, the man is sent, because he has arms and legs and a brain, and he can help the animal out and let it get back into the rightful place it's supposed to be. And it's the same with man has to help man. He has to help man. If man falls into his brain and becomes all stupid and ignorant, he has to be helped out, guided out by his fellow man. Okay. And so they say it's survival of the fittest, but none of these heretical sects survived. None of these orders survived. They're all dead and gone. And new iterations of the natural order turning back into heretical sects have overtaken them and will be destroyed in their turn, and others will overtake them again. And this process is called evolution. And what it's evolving is virtue. It's evolving virtue in man. The virtuous survive. That's all. The virtuous survive. The Christians survived the Jewish Armageddon. Okay. Now the Jews have had many opportunities. They had the Christians came along and they had the opportunity of joining in with that, with the truth, or just staying in the heretical sect and being destroyed, which they were. Then Muhammad came along with Islam. He also came out of Judaism, came out of both Judaism and Christianity, because that's what they were. They were Christians there living in the Middle East at the time of Muhammad. And he could see that they'd fallen into an heretical sect, you know. And so he drove them out. He drove all the liars out, and a new evolution of the natural order came about. Yet it also has been corrupted, because they say, you must do this, you must do that, all these laws that everybody has to obey. Yeah. Islam's full of it too. So it's the end. The end time of Islam. That's what you're seeing right now. The end time of Christianity. America represents Christianity now, but it's an heretical sect. It's making war. Jesus said make love, not war. Yeah. And thou shalt not petition the Lord with prayer. Jim Morrison said that. He was the Christ figure of the 1960s and 70s. Jim Morrison of the Doors. He said, thou shalt not petition the Lord with prayer. And it's true. Your Father knows what you need before you ask. That's God. That's Jesus said that. Your Father knows what you need before you ask. Don't ask God for anything. Don't pray. Don't say, tell other people what to do. We will all now shut up and I'm going to pray. That's the devil himself, okay? Know the devil. Know his works. Know his sex. And stay away from him. That's all I can say. That there's no benefit in being part of anything demonic. And if you cannot find anything angelic, be by yourself. If you're by yourself, you may find another angel to walk the world with, who will become your divine partner, your gentleman or your lady. And if you have each other, that's enough. And if you meet somebody else on the way, who's also part of the natural order of poets, bards and druids, enjoy yourselves, because it's a rare thing in the world today. Thanks for watching.